Yes. Yeah, now we can start the formal program. Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor K. Arya Sambhasiv Rao, sir. Respected Professor Grahita Chandrarin, madam. Respected Dr. Glorida, Dr. Girdhari, Dr. Lal Minglana Renthlei, Mr. Suraj, and my dear participants and fellow members. It's given me a great pleasure to welcome all of you on my own behalf and on behalf of Mizoram University on the great occasion of International Webinar on Corporate Governance. Taking this opportunity, first and foremost, I would like to welcome Professor Grahita Chandrarin, who is currently Director of Graduate School Program, University of Merdeka, Malang, Indonesia. Madam has published so many papers and books in the different international journal of repute, and she is well known in the field of accounting and management. Besides the academic activities, Madam is actively involved in the government of Indonesia academic activities, academic programs, and different academic association of the world. Madam also worked as a senior board member of APMA. She is actively involved in the higher education committees of the Indonesia. And in 2016, she was also elected as the president of Asia Pacific Accounting Management Association. Ma'am, we are thankful to welcome you, and we feel proud to welcome you. I would also like to welcome our second speaker, Dr. Grahita Karyavati, and who is well known in the field of economics, this accounting. And she was earlier working in the University of Prasutya Mulya, and recently she joined another university, this University of Pelita, Harapan, Indonesia. And she also worked in the different universities in Indonesia in the capacity of head and board members and secretary of this executive councils. I would like to sincerely register sincere welcome to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor K. Arya Sambhasiv Rao, sir, who is well-known scientist, philosopher, and academician. He did PhD in 3 subjects and DSc in biotechnology. Mainly he is from the biotechnology, but he is expert in 6 disciplines, as he has master degree in 6 disciplines. Sir has a wide experience of working not only in India, but he worked in many countries in the different parts of the world like USA, Tanzania, Panama, and China. So we feel very proud to welcome our Honorable Vice Chancellor, who is the academic leader, and he has published more than 20 books and around 300 papers in the international repute, and his citation, the citation of his papers is more than 13,000. So, sir, we feel proud to work under your leadership, your guidance, and welcome you on this great occasion. I would also like to welcome Dr. Rajkumar Girdhari Singh, who is the Secretary of Research Council in our department. I would like to welcome Dr. Lal Minglana Renthlei, Assistant Professor in my department, and Mr. Suraj, in charge of this ICT programs, who is giving all the supports. My most sincere welcome to all the participants and faculty members for those who joined this program. Once again, I welcome on behalf of the Mizoram University and my own behalf. Now, before I invite Madam Grahita to deliver her lecture, I want to tell the participants that they can ask their questions in question and answer session. And Dr. Rajkumar Girdhari will handle the question and answer session. First, he will take up the questions related to Professor Grahita, and then he will take up the questions related to Madam Glorida. And before questions, if our Vice Chancellor, sir, will be free, then he will also say a few words. but there are so many meetings. Sometimes he may be busy with the meetings with MHRD and Government of India. So if he will be free, then he can give the blessings. If not, then uh, already he given the blessings and talks. So now I would like to request Professor Grahita Chandranin to deliver her speech, and her topic will be the implementation of corporate governance studies for management during COVID-19 pandemic. Madam Grahita, please.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity given to me, especially to Vice Chancellor of Mizoram University and Dr. Amit and the teams who have facilitated us, Golida and I from Indonesia in the webinar today. Hi everyone, good afternoon from Indonesia. My name is Grahita Chandrarin. I am professor of University of Merdeka Malang. I would like to talk to you today about the importance of corporate governance studies for management during COVID-19 pandemic. The primary objective of today's presentation is to discuss about research method and corporate governance in COVID-19 pandemic situations, as it is the problems are being faced by countries around the world. Let's start with the contents of my presentation. I have divided my presentation into 8 parts. There are after research methodology, before research methodologies in corporate governance, I tell about background, research method for business, benefit of research for managers, and then after corporate governance, I tell about agency theory, the importance of corporate governance studies for management, COVID-19 pandemic, and conclusion. Let's see the figure 1 about the impacts of COVID-19 on people's and business activities. Figure 1 illustrates the situation of places that are usually crowded turned into quiet because it has been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The world has changed dramatically about 3-4 months since January 2020. A rare disaster, a coronavirus pandemic, has resulted in tragically large number of human lives being lost. As countries implement necessary quarantines and social distancing practices to contain the pandemics, the world has been put in a great lockdown. Economic activity stops for a moment. Malls, schools, interregional access roads, airports, manufacturing companies, and restaurants are closed. Assuming the pandemic fades in the second half of 2020 and that policy action taken around the world are effective in preventing widespread from bankruptcies, extended job losses, and system-wide financial strains, we project global growth in 2021 rebound to 5.8%. This is requires more governance than before in all industrial areas. Let's see a video about understanding the economic shock of the COVID-19 crisis, which was published by Expropriation from YouTube.
If you're worried about the economic toll of the coronavirus crisis, you're not alone. It's scary. There is no clear forecast, and each country's experience will be different. Here's what we do know. A steady flow of money, goods, services, and the people to make them flow is essential to a healthy economy. And that flow is severed right now by life-saving stay-at-home orders. Recession is inevitable, but what kind of recession it will be and what recovery might look like is still unclear. To help imagine what could happen, authors from Boston Consulting Group point out that recessions and their recoveries come in various shock shapes. These are determined by how hard a crisis hits the supply side of an economy. That's an economy's inputs, capital, like machinery, factories, software, labor, or workers, plus productivity, or how we use labor and capital productively. The harder the supply side is hit, the more credit is interrupted, meaning less money is injected in the form of loans to businesses and individuals to fuel investment, and the more difficult it is for productivity to recover. From best to worst, we have V, U, and L recession shock shapes. The V shape is a one-time dip. If credit can continue to flow, productivity and labor are less affected. You can see that growth dips but recovers to its pre-crisis level and rate. The U shape is much more costly. Credit flow is disrupted and growth drops precipitously, never rebounding to its pre-crisis path. The rate of growth recovers, see how the slopes are the same, but a large gap between the old and new paths represents one-off damage to the economy's supply side. The L shape is the worst. Credit is severely disrupted, not once but perpetually, and there is very little new investment. This economy never recovers its prior output path, and the rate of growth also declines. The crisis leaves permanent structural damage to the economy's supply side. These examples represent crises that started in the financial sector, disrupting credit flow and thus capital growth. We have some off-the-shelf policies for dealing with these. However, we are now in uncharted territory with a double risk of a financial system shock and an epic freeze of the real economy, the households, firms, and government that deliver real physical goods and services. Countries have no existing playbook for dealing with this double shock. Months of necessary social distancing raises the risk of both types of problems, which can feed off each other in dangerous ways. For example, a prolonged crisis can drive up real economy bankruptcies of everyday people and firms, making it harder for financial systems to manage. And a financial system crisis would starve the real economy of credit, which could cripple investment and ultimately growth. In this combined crisis, capital does not grow, pushing the economy towards a U shape. Not good. However, we can head off a U or L-shaped recovery and lessen the intensity of the crisis. How? Primarily, innovation. On the medical side, vaccines, treatments, and capacity innovations are needed to save lives and end the economic damage caused by social distancing. On the economic side, in addition to a vigorous and efficient policy response, we will need policy innovations. For example, in the US, the $2 trillion stimulus bill is just a start. We will need innovative ways to deliver that money to those who need it, since never before have policymakers had to help such large numbers of firms and households. For example, the so-called discount windows that allow unlimited access to funding for the financial sector could be replicated for households and firms in the real economy so that they can stay afloat. Zero-interest bridge loans to households and firms, a moratorium on mortgage payments for residential and commercial borrowers. These are potential solutions that could help make a real difference. The economic goal is to keep our shock shape closer to a V and further away from a U or an L. Speedy, well-executed medical and policy innovations are our best hope to save the most lives and avoid permanent economic damage.
There are many phenomena that are used as a basis for conducting research that affects entire worlds and becomes a global crisis. For example, financial crisis, COVID-19 pandemic, etc. A pandemic itself means that the spread of disease occurs throughout the world, which can certainly be linked to a crisis. Therefore, are many phenomena. Therefore, I use the reference literature of past crisis situations. I myself have researched on a basis of phenomena of the crisis during the monetary crisis in Indonesia in the 2000s, which is about foreign exchange gains and losses. In 1998, I did foreign exchange gains and losses research due to foreign currency translation using secondary data from NYC. And the following year, I did foreign exchange gains and losses research due to foreign currency transaction using the Indonesian capital market data. Let's see at figure 2. COVID-19 will impact people's economic welfare and poverty through several channels. There are the direct effect and indirect effects. There are the direct effects of the health shock with respect to contracting the illness and associated lost earnings, as well as out-of-pocket costs associated with obtaining medical care, especially for those who have no insurance or other form of financial protection in health. There are indirect effects of the shock related to reduction in incomes as public and private responses to the outbreaks disrupt economic activity and affect people's employments and earnings. Such effects may be particularly acute in several service sectors, including retail, transportation, and tourism. Indirect effects of the shock can also be felt through changes in producer and consumer prices in the economy. For example, as global and regional growth slows, prices of agriculture and other commodities may go down, reducing people's real incomes. Conversely, to extent that supply chains are disrupted by the crisis, prices for manufactured goods may go up, reducing people's real incomes. In my opinion, talking about an impact in importance research topics is pandemic situation is about corporate governance issue. In the last 10 years, there are much evidence of exponential growth in research on corporate governance. Increasing research interest and activity has occurred not only in the US, where the subject is well established as a significant focus on business research, but also there is growing interest among other countries, such as Indonesia, China, and Australia. Even in some universities, corporate governance is used in the name of faculty of study program. For example, at Macquarie University, Australia, there is a separate department of corporate governance, namely the Accounting and Corporate Governance Department. This shows how important corporate governance theory and empirical are. That is why in this opportunity, we focus on corporate governance studies for management. The basic theory used to understand corporate governance is agency theory, which then developed and completed by other theories in accordance with the development of issues that need to be resolved. For example, stakeholder theory, steward theory, etc. Research on corporate governance is not only needed in a normal situation, but also in a crisis situation. In this case, the situation of COVID-19 pandemic, which is identified with the situation of the global crisis that affect almost the whole world. In situation of global crisis or COVID-19 pandemic, corporate governance will be very different and experience very significant changes compared to the normal situation. In the crisis situations, it is also still needed due to there are many problems that need to be resolved. Business research is defined as an organized system, database, critical, objective, scientific inquiry or investigation a specific problem undertaken with the purpose of finding answer or solution to it. Actually, we have three keywords about the purpose of business research, namely to describe, to explain, and to predict. Scientific research methods consist of direct observation on phenomena, variable methods, and clearly defined research procedure. The formulated hypothesis was tested empirically. Competing or rival hypothesis, it means if we have a hypothesis, please make sure our hypothesis stronger than the competing or rival hypothesis. Statistically, conclusion justifically, and then the self-correcting process. There are two kinds of business research, basic and applied research. Research is research done chiefly to enhance the understanding of certain problems that commonly occur in organizational setting and to seek methods of solving them. Applied research is a research done with the intention of applying the results of the findings to solve specific problems currently being experienced in the organization. The primary purpose of conducting basic research is to generate more knowledge and understanding of the phenomena of interest and to build theories based on the research result. For example, university professor engaged in basic research in an effort to understand and generate more knowledge about various aspects of business, such as how to examine the impacts of foreign exchange gains and losses on earning response coefficient. The purpose of applied research is to solve a current problem faced by manager in the work setting demanding a timely solution. For example, a particular product may not be selling well and the manager might want to find the reasons for this in order to take a corrective action. We have the hallmark of scientific research consists of purposiveness, rigor, testability, replicability, precision and confidence, objectivity, generalizability, parsimony, consistency, and novelty. Purposiveness, it means the manager has started the research with a definite aim or purpose. Good research is research whose purpose is clearly stated. Rigor can connote carefulness, scrupulousness, and the degree of executed and research investigation. Testability, which shows that research can test hypotheses using statistical tests on the data collected. Research data can be tested with different analytical tools. The results will be consistent. Replicability is research can be re-examined and developed with different data, time periods, and situation. Precision refers to closeness of the finding to reality based on a sample. Precision reflects the degree of accuracy and execute of the results of the basis of sample to what really exists in the universe. Confidence refers to the probability that our estimates are correct. Objectivity, the conclusions drawn through the interpretations of the result of data analysis should be objective, that is, they should based on the fact of finding derived from actual data and not on own subjective or emotional value. Generalizability refers to the scope of the research finding in one organizational setting, other settings. Parsimony is simplicity in explaining the phenomena of problems that occur, and in generating solution for the problems is always preferred to complex research framework that consider a number of factors. Consistency, namely the reporting and research process should be consistent from the title until to the conclusions. Novelty quality, about the novelty, quality research should have a novelty value that is different from previous research. Benefits of research for managers are to help professional managers to identify and effectively solve minor problems in the work setting. Know how to discriminate good research from bad one. Appreciate to be constantly aware of the multiple influences and multiple effects of factors impinging and on a situation. Take calculated risk in decision making, knowing full well probabilities associated with the different possible outcomes. Prevent possible vested interest from exercising their influence in a situation. Relate to hire researchers and consultants more effectively. Combine experience with scientific knowledge while making decisions. The question is, why are corporate governance studies important for management during COVID-19 pandemic? And the answer is due to the problem that arise when the pandemic increases and the income decreases, especially in terms of compensation. The reason for the management doing corporate governance studies due to the demand from stakeholders, especially corporations that have been enlisted, operating internationally and seeking for funding overseas. Due to the demand of regulators to create infrastructure needed for stock exchange transaction, minimizing the investment obstruction, enhancing the transparency through highly qualified accounting standard. Research methodologies in corporate governance consists of database surveys, questionnaire surveys, interview surveys, boardroom observation, and mixed method. Database surveys database methods are based on secondary data. For example, if in Indonesia, based on secondary data from Capital Market Indonesian Capital Market Directorate, or from VTC or Fortune 500, or for annual report. The advantages of database surveys are broad sample and possibility of generalization. And the disadvantage, for example, surrogate variables of people selected may not connect with reality. Questionnaire surveys, for example, conducted by Spencer Stewart and Russell Reynolds consultants, and then methodology of Paul Potentates, and interview surveys have advantages. For example, responded explain central relationship and can explore issues interactively. And the disadvantages consist of access, costly, difficult to get access to large sample. Boardroom observation, researchers must enter to the board with the perspective of looking for data, not evaluator. For example, study by Himsert et al. With the title Conflict in Boardroom, a participant observation study of supervisory board dynamic. The advantages are relationship may be studied and group dynamic may be observed. And the disadvantage consists of access impossible, legal aspect, and confidently. Mixed method is combining questionnaires and interview. For example, study by Joel with the title A Study on the Use of Mixed Method Approach via SQL Procedure to Investigate Corporate Governance and Corporate Entrepreneurship among the 100 UK Financial Times Stock Exchange. The advantages are captures advantages of various methods and broader data. And disadvantages are disadvantages which apply to individual method minimized by comparison. Let's see about the roadmap for the design of government studies. We have 4 parts, start from design theory until reporting result. Yeah, design theory, for example, here geographical location choice. How does location inform the theory, or how does theory determine location? Single versus multi theory, and then go beyond direct linear effects until design and the next design analytic parameters, robustness test, and then reporting result. Bond et al. Study presents the results of a longitudinal contents analysis of government articles published in both corporate governance, international review, and other leading management outlets. Based on results of the review, recommendation is academic researchers are offered in following areas. For example, in designing theoretical tests which would incorporate and go beyond main effects, and evaluating research designs analytical parameters on a priori basis to maximize reliability, validity, and potential of publication. About corporate governance involves a set of relationships among a company's management, its board, its shareholder, other stakeholders. Corporate governance also provides a structure through which the objective of the company asset and the means of attaining those objectives and monitoring performance are determined. OECD focus on the system by which a company can be directed and controlled, specify right, responsiveness, and rules until, let's say in my PowerPoint, be dependent upon proper consideration and interaction with all stakeholders. And definitions of descriptions of corporate governance can fall anywhere on the scale from narrow to broad. Narrow, be consistent with agency theory and focus directly on company shareholder relationship. Broad, consider both explicit and implicit relationship between the company and its stakeholder, and stakeholder include company, employers, creditor, government agencies, and society. The OECD principles of corporate governance consist of ensuring the basis for an effective corporate governance network, the right of shareholder and key ownership function, the equitable treatment of shareholders, the role of stakeholder in corporate governance, disclosure and transparency, and responsibility of the board. Agency theory is a theory that describes a contracts under which individual or groups are engaged to another individual or groups, agent or managers to perform some service on their behalf. Agency problems arise because contracts are both costly to write and enforce. Agency costs include the costs of structuring, monitoring, and bonding a set of contracts among agents with conflicting interests. This gives rise the three specification problems like in my PPT. And then different parties have different interests, potential risk of people acting as their own interest on other parties' expense. Whenever in a contract, one party therefore needs to monitor the other party and find ways to ensure that interests are aligned. Agency theory, there are consists of the agency problems, and then separation of ownership and control give rise to the ends of professional managers, and then owner employ manager to run the firm in the best interest of the investors, and most managers do. However, some managers act criminal and embezzle shareholder fund. Another classical agency problem is excess expenditure that expenses business motivated and what is the manager private consumption. And this is assumption is the agency theory. And then the aims of corporate governance mechanisms are to ensure that manager work in the best interest of the shareholders, minimize agency costs or problem, set frameworks for contractual relationship, and then construct sound economy. There exists a wide variety of government mechanism internally and externally. Why are corporate governance studies important to management during pandemic situations? The reasons are due to the demands of stakeholders, especially corporations that has been enlisted in terms of transparency and accountability, and then minimizing risk and enhancing the transparency through highly qualified governance, and due to the problems that arise when the crisis increases and the income decreases, especially in terms of compensation. The core of corporate governance is monitoring and supervising, who carries out the surveillance board of director who oversees the company. In unitary board system, board of directors consists of executive and non-executive or independent directors. But in dual board system, board of director consists of board of directors, management boards, and board of commissioners, supervisory boards, including independent commissioner. There are two main roles of board director, namely monitoring and advisory. Board of director also play a role as a supervisor or consultant for the company. During COVID-19 pandemic situation, it is urgent to help companies survive, but in accordance with the right track. Board of directors or BOD should supervise, direct, and accompany the firm due to boards of director is responsible for the company. So we can say that corporate governance is the same as a board of director because basically corporate governance has a function as monetary and supervisory. During COVID-19 pandemic conditions, of course, the role of corporate governance, board of director and monitoring is increasingly important. When facing turbulence, board of director needs to ensure that the company stays on the right track. The problem is becoming more complex. BOD needs to make sure companies do not things that are not right to survive in a crisis. The main task of board of directors is to ensure that the company is operating according to the principles of maximizing shareholders' value. In a crisis, CAO duality is associated with better performance. The use of incentive compensation and existence of a wedge between ownership and control rights shows negative impact on firm performance. 25 of the heterogeneity in firm performance is among countries. The general quality of the legal system and creditor right protection are positively related to firm performance, but protection for equity investor is not. This is the results of studies by Essence. Corporate governance research topic opportunities consist of the board of management dynamic and business activity in pandemic situation, and then enterprises risk management, and then business relations and sustainability, scenario-based technology planning, and executive compensation. With its subtopics, for example, in boards of management dynamic and business activity in pandemic situation, subtopics, the role of situational investors and stewardship, and then corporate purpose in times of crisis. I think about executive compensation is very interesting. A key pandemic lesson is the benefit of having an appropriate level of compensation committee, discretionary built into all executive compensation and benefit arrangements. This includes the flexibility in a crisis not to pay something, to pay it later, as well as the flexible to pay something different and additional when extraordinary circumstances intervenes. The conclusions in my presentations today regarding with the many problems appearing during COVID-19 pandemic situation, it is urgent to take a closer look at the phenomena in practice and to conduct the research to answer the the problems. Corporate governance is needed in a pandemic situation because it can help management, especially in terms of monitoring and supervising the company. The tendency to respond to a pandemic situation with more stringent rules may be counterproductive since such measure may compromise executive ability to respond approximately to systematic shocks. Practitioners are encouraged to optimize rather than maximize their governance choice. Knowledge of the results of corporate governance studies can shape managers' sensitivity to the myriad of variables in a situation and can help management to analyze multi-causality and complexity of phenomena, thereby avoiding inappropriate ideas in analyzing the relationship between variables operating observed during a pandemic. When managers understand the research reports about their organization handled to them by professionals, they will be equipped to take intelligent, educated, calculated risks with known probabilities attached to the success or failure of their decision. Research then becomes useful for decision-making tools rather than the other information during a pandemic. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am, for your very exciting presentation and very valuable information. We had received so many questions and comments that after Madam Glorida's presentation, Dr. Giri will handle. Now I would like to request Dr. Glorida Karyavarthi for giving her presentation on corporate governance of Asian family business, the strength and weakness. Ma'am, please.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Amit. Thank you for all audience wherever you are. Good morning, India. Good afternoon, Indonesia. Here is my topic. Prof. Grahita has explained much and guided us by providing example on how to do corporate governance research by putting into the context COVID periods. And now in my session, I will try to elaborate corporate governance issue in the specific case, which is Asian family business. Okay, but before we continue, I think we need to set up our point of view because family business topic is very broad discussion topic. So in this session, we will see our case in the through the eyes of investor or potential investor entering Asian capital market. So we leave it the case, right? This is our first point of view. And the second is Asian family business. Actually, there are many family business around the world in the United States or in other regions. But Asian family business is quite different with those in the United States, in European or in other regions. where in United States or other region, family business hires, usually they hires independent professional outside from the family to run the business, to control the business, to manage the business. But in Asia, Asian family business usually manage their business by member of the family itself. And the consequences, it brings the consequence, much consequence as specifically to the corporate.
Ma'am Golrida,
Yeah.
can you make your full, screen full in full mode? PPT.
Okay.
Oh yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, now it's coming.
Okay. Can you see?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So will I start from the beginning or I continue? Okay.
Please continue, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. I repeat the second point of view. Our second point of view is Asian family business. So when we talk about Asian family business, it's different with family business in such as in United States, in European or in other region, because family business in United States or other region usually hires independent professional management to run their business and to control the business. But for the Asian family business in Asia usually managed by the member of the family itself. So there is a big difference, and it brings the many consequences. Okay, and we can see in the slide the unseparate family and management in Asian family business. So if we are investor or other parties entering Asian capital market should be equipped with the understanding of the nature and the nuance of family business. Okay. And we can take a look at the magnitude of family business in Asia. Family business in Asia contributes significantly to the Asia GDP. Based on, according to Kota and Singh 2016, family business in Asia contributes around 34% to the Asia GDP. And McKinsey and Company even predicted that family business family business will account for 40% of the world's largest firms by 2025. So the impact of family business is becoming higher. And when we go to the specific countries such as India and Indonesia, in both countries, family business even contributes more than 60% of their GDP. And when we see Indonesia, the family business contributes more than 80% of Indonesia GDP. That's why topic of family business is a hot topic in becoming more hot topic in Indonesia. And how about the performance of family business? Many people perceive that family business performance is not as good as non-family business. Why? Maybe they think that family business is less professionally managed compared to non-family business. But I want to show you some findings. Some studies have been done comparing family business and non-family business, like you see in the slide. But the conclusion is inconclusive. Some research conclude that family business outperform the non-family business. The other research, such as by Singapore concluded that non-family business were better performers than family business. And the other research said that no significant difference between family and non-family business. So in my opinion, I think at the end, either family business or non-family business ultimately defined by the success of family business, the success of non-family business at the end is defined by how well the business is managed and how good the corporate governance implemented in the business. But an interesting fact is that so many family business enter capital markets. Maybe one of the reasons is that the family business want to increase their productivity. As on the slide, Wall said that family business which are not publicly listed are less productive. So maybe that is the reason, one reason. And the other reason I will explain later. And according to Credit Suisse 2011, half of the listed company in the 10 countries in Asia was family firm. So I think the number is growing on 2020 because like you see, the research of the data is 2011. And according to Alvarez and Marshall, 2015, India has 108 publicly listed family business. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the number is maybe bigger now. And how about Indonesia? In Indonesia, majority stock listed on Indonesian stock exchange are family business. Okay, I will show you. Maybe it's not very clear on your wall, but according to data of LQ45 Indonesia, LQ45 company of LQ45 is the list of the most liquid company or blue chip company in Indonesia. And interesting to know that in 45 blue chips company, 27 are family business. Like you see in the slide, like you see in the slide, generally, second generation of the family business still exists. If you see SOE means state-owned enterprise. The second largest blue chip company is state-owned enterprise, but the most liquid company is family business. The majority of the LQ45 list in Indonesia are family business company. So I think it's clarify about the performance of family business in Indonesia. But here is the issue, corporate governance issue on family business. When a family business enter capital market or sell its stock publicly, but the family is still controlling the company as before, and other stockholders, including new investor, will be minority interest in the company. So they still control the company because they are the controlling party. As the controlling party in the company, in the family business, all strategic decision will be made under decision of the family. And the family easier get access to all resources of the company. So it will create moral hazard for company to misuse the company resources for their private benefit. And that's the corporate governance problem of family business generally that need to be addressed, such as asymmetric information, expropriation, etc., etc. Now, we will compare corporate governance characteristic of family business and non-family business. We keep in mind that in non-family business, ownership and management or control are separated because control are kept by independent professional which hire to manage and control the business. But for the family business, ownership and control or management are unseparated because company manage and controlled by family member itself. And the different characteristic of non-family business and family business has consequences. If we see non-family business, in non-family business, agent or control or management is trusted to independent professional, independent party outside the family. So independent party will control the company, the non-family business. So as a controlling party in company, independent professional can get access to all resources of the company, and independent professional also make a strategic decision towards the company. In other words, agent or control has more information compared to owner, or we say as principal. This is what we call asymmetric information. Since agent come from outside the company, he or she has his own or her own purpose and private interest. So according to agency theory, which has explained also by Prof. Grahita, there is a potential conflict between independent professional or between agent versus owner or principal. What is agency problem? Agency problem is the potential problem where agent misuse private information for private benefit. And how the agency problem is done by agent. Agency problem in non-family business. Usually agent performance is evaluated by principal based on company performance. I think if we work in company, we know this context, yeah. And the performance of the company is reported in what so-called financial reporting, but the financial reporting is controlled by agent. So agent will employ financial reporting strategy to enhance his or her performance. So usually agent use financial reporting strategy. They apply to re-engineering financial reporting for their benefit to make up agent performance so that he or she can get higher bonus or promotion from the owner. And in fact, several studies prove that opportunistic earning management means re-engineering financial statement to create more profit and to mark up asset so that it looks like a company achieve high profit, and that's the performance of agent. Since financial reporting is under the decision of agent, so agent will try to work as hard as much as possible to manage earning. I hope you understand. And what is the consequence of the agency problem in non-family business? In a non-family business, usually higher agency costs occur compared to family business, which is cost of hiring and monitoring professional agent to alleviate risk of resource misuse and make sure that the agent work on the purpose of owner or principal. And that is the strength of the family business. In family business, operation of organization costs is more efficient in terms of monitoring costs. In family business, there is a lower agency cost compared to the non-family business. Even though some previous study prove that there is also happen earning management in family business, but the type of earning management is efficient earning management, not opportunistic earning management, which advantage the agent. In the family business, efficient earning management, based on the previous research, it can enhance the value of the firm. And the other strength of the family business, the corporate governance of family business reduce the free ride problem and maximize incentive to undertake value enhancing intervention. And you can see also in the slide other strength of family business: higher motivation to maintain the longevity of the business. A close network of family leadership can lead to fast and effective decision making. And several studies found that the business founding family still retain control were more efficient when compared to business without control of the founding family. But the weakness, when we talk about the weakness of family business, mainly the weakness of corporate governance of family business is expropriation risk. I will go to the previous slide. Okay, we can see the family business now. In family business, agent or management or control are done by family member itself. So because agent have more information, agent is in the on the side of family. So agent will act at the purpose of the family, in line with the family. So in this condition, in this context, according to agency theory, there is a conflict of interest between family or majority holder versus minority holder, new investor, potential investor. It is happened in Asia. And what is the expropriation? Expropriation is the transfer or diversion of company resources to the by the controlling shareholder to the detriment of minority shareholder. The agent will tunnel the asset, the resource of the company to the family benefit. This is what we call expropriation risk. And the practice of expropriation risk are, we can see on the slide, such as allocate some corporate resources to the production of private benefit. For example, let's say a company have two subsidiary, company A and company B. For example, company B need a raw material or a product. The family with his power or her power can make a strategic decision, so that the company A sell the raw material to the company B, which also controlled by the family, and the price of the purchase or selling is determined by the family. This is one example of expropriation practice. And also transfer pricing, like I said before, family determine the pricing. And the other example of expropriation is excessive compensation towards the family member itself. For example, the CAO, the CAO is the family member. The company will give a higher compensation, higher bonus for the manager, which come from the family. And also the practice of expropriation is the taking of corporate opportunity that only done by the family itself. And this is the findings that expropriation really exists in East Asia, including Indonesia. And Clayson et al. Long time ago proved that access control rights negatively affect firm value and performance in general. It means that access control right can be used to detect the potential of expropriation. I will show you how to detect expropriation by access control. Like you see in this slide, let's say that C5 is family member. The family have other family company C2, C4, and C3 has stock also in C1, C4, in C2, and bank. How to, according to Clayson, the family or C5 can expropriate bank through cross-holding and pyramid structure. This is a pyramid structure. This is what we call cross-holding. This is the example of cross-holding and pyramid structure. How to calculate access, how to find out access control. If we see the family business as C5, is the family control bank? Yes, the family control bank through the C1 with 18% stock. And also the family directly control bank by purchasing 25% of bank stock. So we can calculate the controlling rights as 20% plus 18%, which is 43% on the bank. And how about the cash flow right? Cash flow right, we can calculate cash flow right by multiplying. What is the meaning of cash flow right? Cash flow right is ownership of the family directly and indirectly in bank. Ownership of family directly in bank is 25%, and indirectly is 20% multiply 12%, multiply 18%. So cash flow right is 25.43%. And control right is 18% and 25% because the family control bank 25% directly and control through the C1 18%. If we see the slide, there is a difference between control right and cash flow rights. The difference is 17.57%. So excess control rights have been studied by previous study, can be used to detect the potential to do expropriation practice. And so when we see the structure of company, for example, in Indonesia, 2/3 of Indonesian firms in the sample have pyramid ownership structure. Pyramid ownership structure and cross-holding easier family to do expropriation, but corporate governance issue on family business, the main issue is one of the main issue is expropriation issue that need to be addressed by investor or potential investor that want to invest in capital market of Asian family business. But for government or for other stakeholders, we have to have sufficient knowledge about expropriation issue so that we can address the how to solve the problem of expropriation issue. So corporate governance must be directed towards minority interest protection, because the majority have a moral hazard. But in fact, for the Asian family business, internal corporate governance is not enough to enhance the justice, so that the company, so that the management govern the company with the clean government. For the family business, Asian family business, the need for external governance for investor protection is also the main issue. Government intervention can be done usually through the regulation to protect minority interests. For example, like in Indonesia, protecting minority interests is regulated by the government when decision of merger is made. For example, a family which is the majority holder want to do merger or acquisition another company. Maybe minority interest, minority holder not agree with that decision. So by intervention of the government, they can sell their stock with a fair price. That is how government of Indonesia protect minority holder. And government also regulate corporate government mechanism, such as in Indonesia, we call it dual governance. Dual governance consists of two boards. One board is a board of director. They make a strategic decision about the company. And the other board is called a commissioner to supervise the board of director. But government intervene so that at a company have to hire independent board member into commissioner, at least 30%, in order to protect minority interests. And a reporting regulation in Indonesia also oblige company to disclose related party to assure arm's length transaction done by the family business. And the second, what is needed for the family business to protect minority interests is a strong legal institution and regulatory regime. Strong legal institution and regulatory regimes may act as extra mechanism to shield minority shareholders from expropriation. And another mechanism can be done to protect minority interests in family business, such as the existence of multiple blockholders. Multiple blockholders may prevent family firms gain private benefit at the expense of minority shareholders. Some company in Indonesia applied that, and also institutional investors such as bank, etc. And also family reputation, where we, as investor, where we purchase stock in capital market, we also see the family reputation. So before I end this session, I will give some, I hope this research opportunity can be done by scholars in India or Indonesia. Research opportunity for scholar, for example, to analyze minority interest protection effects on expropriation. I think it's will be good research. And also to analyze the effect of expropriation on the financial performance of family business. And the other is to analyze whether external governance factors, such as government intervention, like I mentioned before, institutional ownership and blockholders, influence investor decisions on family business. Thank you for your attention.
Yes, thanks, ma'am, for your very nice and valuable presentation. We will take up the questions, but before that, let me see. Sir, is there? Yes. I would like to invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor to say a few words.
I'm fine, no problem. Go ahead.
Yes, yes. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, now I would like to request Dr. Giridhari to handle the question and answer session.
Thank you, Professor Greta and Dr. Golrida, for the two very important topics given on this webinar organized by the Department of Management, Mizoram University. With us, we have certain question related to the presentation. We'll try to pick up some of the question. First, let me address to Professor Grahita. Ma'am, the first question is, research on corporate governance. For research on corporate governance, primary data is more important or secondary data is more important, or is it both data are important? This question has been put up by Lavanya Kalyani.
Yes, thank you for the questions. It's good questions. Yes, because research in corporate governance is behavior research. I think, for example, we can measure the variables about the corporate governance mechanisms, especially in terms of maybe compensations. Not all of the subject or respondents give the answers about the compensation, for example. I think because the typical of corporate governance research is behavior research, including it behavior research. If secondary data, I think we can also taken from capital market, for example. I think it's okay, but many problems, problem in research in corporate governance about the data, the collecting data. I think better if we have the data from the managers or the board of directors, but it's very hard to collect the data from primary data from the respondents directly. I think it's like so.
Thank you, ma'am. So
Yeah.
I'll pick up a few other questions. Second question relates to is a question put up by Dr. Santosh Kumar Rawat. Due to COVID-19,
Pardon?
yeah, just a second, ma'am.
Uh-huh.
Due to COVID-19, most of the corporate industries are facing slow corporate growth and development. What are the scientific and technical strategies for its steady growth and development in the contemporary time? Is it okay, ma'am? The question, should I repeat?
Sorry, I cannot hear your sounds.
Okay, let me repeat the question, ma'am. Due to
Mm-hmm.
coronavirus, this COVID-19, most of the corporate,
Yep.
the company industries are facing slow corporate growth and development. So what are the scientific and technical strategies for its steady growth and development in this contemporary time?
Okay. I see. About research of corporate governance, I think can do in the, like I mentioned before in my presentation, I think it's important for do in the COVID-19 pandemic situation, because we need to measure how about the implements of corporate governance in maybe in certain countries, for example in Indonesia, because I read from the article the good corporate governance, the results of the article, the good corporate governance it's needed in crisis situation for the research, because with the research, with the studies, we can do many things, the solution or the answer of the problems. I think like so.
Okay, ma'am, thank you for the answering the question. We have quite many number of questions, but I'll take one more question for you. So this may be the last question. The question has been put up by Professor Rupen Basu Malik. Is there a difference in the approach of audit committee in COVID situation?
Audit committee and
In this COVID situation, like, is there any difference in the approach of audit committee? Because pre-COVID and post-COVID. So is there any difference in the audit committee?
Yes, about the differentiation about this, I think we need the because I don't have the research about it. I can tell very well, but I think there are differentiations about what it.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Now let me put up a certain number of questions to
welcome.
Dr. Golrida.
Okay,
Madam, yes. The first question is, what kind of discourse is required for maintaining transparency in corporate governance of Asian family business? I repeat the question, ma'am.
Yep.
What kind of discourse is required for maintaining transparency in corporate governance of Asian family business? This question has been put up by Millie Singh.
Okay, thank you, Millie Singh. She's my friend. Okay, in Indonesia, several universities offer family business subject in certain department. So in the subject, the subject consists of many topics. One of them is the transparency in the family business. So I think this is the one way for the government or for university to uphold the transparency in the family business. Okay, right? I repeat it again. I don't know about India, but in Indonesia, some universities, several universities in Indonesia offer course which call family business, Asian family business. So that and in this course, in this subject, many topics will be discussed, such as transparency. So transparency is part of the subject, and this is the way of government and university to uphold the transparency practice in Indonesia. I think India also do the same. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind answer. The next question is, a question has been put up by Mazib Alam. How can we make a good impression of our business in international level?
Yep, once again.
How can we make a good impression of our business in international level? How can we make a good impression?
Good impression
Of our business, okay, in the international level.
How can we map good governance?
Good impression, ma'am.
Impression. How can we map good impression
in international business?
In international business, I think corporate governance is more needed in international business. Let me see the question in the Q&A. I don't. I'm sorry, can you repeat? Can you repeat again the question?
Yeah, sure.
I will write it.
Yeah, the question has been put up by Mazib Alam.
Yep.
And the question is, how can we make a good impression?
How can we make
a good impression?
A good impression
of our business.
Impression of
our business.
Our business.
Yes, in international level.
In international. I think by enhancing our corporate governance, by practicing good corporate governance, our business will be appreciated more and will be known in the international level.
Okay.
Yeah, I think practicing good corporate governance is one way, one strategy, so that our business is impressed by other party on international level business.
All right. Okay, thank you, ma'am. So let me continue a few other questions.
Yeah.
So the next question is put up by Professor Shiv Kumar Singh.
Yep.
His question is, what type of changes should be incorporated in corporate governance as far as effective corporate social responsibilities?
What? Sorry, I
Yeah.
want to write it down.
All
What?
right. What type
Yep.
of changes
What kind of changes
should be incorporated in corporate governance?
should be incorporated
In corporate governance
in corporate governance,
as
right?
far as
As far as
effective corporate social responsibility.
effective
Corporate social responsibility.
CSR.
Right. Yeah.
So the question is, what kind of changes should be incorporated into CG, into corporate governance, to be effective as corporate social responsibility, right?
Yes, 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 ma'am.
Okay. What kind of? I think corporate governance is part of corporate responsibility. Corporate governance is a part of corporate social responsibility. So by applying, by enhancing willingness, if we enhance corporate governance, if we practice more good corporate governance, it means that we have done corporate social responsibility. I think I can answer that.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, like next question I want to put to Professor Grahita again. Yes, this question is related with research methodology. Question has been put up by Tridio Prasad Uttam, right? Hypothesis is necessary for any research or not? I repeat the question. Is hypothesis required for any research? Yes, for any research or not?
Yes, I think it's depend on the problems. If the objective of our study to explain something, yeah, to explain, for example, the system of the country or the situation of the corporate governance, I think it's not necessary the hypothesis. But if we will to examine the relationship about corporate governance and CSR, the effect of corporate governance and CSR, for example, on stock price or the other ones, I think it's needs depend on design and the objective of our study. I think we can if the explain. The objective of the explain to explain, I think it's not necessary have to hypothesis. I think like so. Depend on the objective of the study, our study, I think.
Thank you, ma'am. So let me be this be the last question. Again, let me put this question to Dr. Grahita. Are there any changes into guidelines in corporate governance? I think his question is specific to COVID-19 because situation has been changed. So is there any changes in corporate governance guidelines? So before we COVID.
I see. In corporate governance studies, I think basically we have agency theory for the base of the theory, the grand theory of our study. Usually, but we can explain about the corporate governance. I think we can also tell about in pandemic or in the crisis situations, because in this crisis situation, we need corporate governance, especially in terms of monitoring and supervisor. Because in corporate governance, the good corporate governance will tell about the performance of the companies, and I think not like in the normal situation. In the normal situation, maybe we can maximize of the wealth of the wealth, yeah. But in the crisis on the COVID-19 pandemics, maybe just not maximizing, but optimization, I think it's enough. That's all.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. With this, my question and answer session, let me end out here. Thank you very much, ma'am. Now let me hand over the session to Dr. Amit Kumar again.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Giri. And now I would like to invite Dr. Lal Mingyana Renthlei for the formal vote of thanks. Yes, Minga, please.
Hello.
Hello.
I am Dr. Lalming Liana from the Department of Management, Mizoram University, and I'd like to propose a short vote of thanks this afternoon. So, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Mizoram University, Professor KRS Sambasivarao, respected Head of Department of Management, Dr. Amit Kumar Singh, respected resource persons for this webinar today, respected organizing secretaries, Dr. R.K. Giridhari Singh, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to propose a short vote of thanks today. And first, I would like to thank our Vice Chancellor, Mizoram University, Professor KRS Sambasivarao, for giving us this wonderful opportunity to organize this webinar, which is very beneficial and relevant in today's situation. I'd also like to thank the Head of Department of Management, Mizoram University, Dr. Amit Kumar Singh, for organizing this wonderful webinar today. I'd like to thank the organizing secretary, Dr. Giridhari Singh, for wonderfully carrying out the Q&A session today. I would like to thank our resource persons, Professor Dr. Grahita Chandrarin, yes, University of Merdeka, Indonesia, for wonderfully taking up the session and giving us a wonderful lecture on the importance of corporate governance studies for management during this COVID-19 pandemic. I'd also like to thank Dr. Glorida Karwati from Pelita Harapan University. Thank you, ma'am, for wonderfully giving us a lecture on corporate governance of Asian family business, the strength and weakness. Thank you. And also, I'd like to thank the participants for this webinar. Without your participation, this webinar will never be a success. So thank you all the participants for attending this webinar today. I'd like to thank our ICT department for their technical support. And last but not the least, thank you everyone for attending this webinar. And I'd also like to inform to all the participants that due to the huge number of participants that we have received, that the certificates will be issued within 1 week. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, ma'am, for your very kind support. And we will be proceed for some collaboration as our Honorable Vice Chancellor directed us. And you also agreed. So we will send some formal invitation for making some collaboration, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, you are welcome.
Thank you. You're welcome.
See you.
Okay, bye. In the